fact, we actually deny ourselves the freedom of forgiveness because we want the power of comparison. The higher law is milk and honey without price, but we insist on paying for it because we are scared that that's not true. And if it's not true, it would be better to have something on Judgment Day. So you can't forget another's sins because they actually lift you up. I am not a holy man. I am not a righteous man. And I do not aspire to become one. I desire to speak the truth and to give you no other reason to believe me, so that my words may be judged upon their merit alone. Welcome to Come Look and Live. There was a pretty good talk this last general conference about carrying around rocks in a backpack. The general idea is that Christ can unburden you. There were several misunderstandings in this talk, but for our purposes today, we're just going to be looking at one of them. It's a little bit tricky to find, but I think that it touches on what I consider to be perhaps the two greatest compromises to our salvation within Christianity as a whole. And I've coined them as our two favorite sins. So in the discourse, we're discussing about how we can become laden down with sin, which is represented by these rocks that you have to lug around. And the idea is that Christ can remove them from your bag or whatever you're carrying around them with. But then we get to this bit. It attempts to describe the type of rocks that might end up in your backpack. So number one, rocks that are of our own doing because of sin. Number two, rocks in our backpack because of poor decisions, misconduct, and unkindness of others. And number three, rocks we carry around because we are living in a fallen condition. These include the rocks of disease, pain, chronic illness, grief, disappointment, loneliness, and the effects of natural disasters. Now, this is needlessly complicated. It would be more simple and more accurate to say that all our rocks are rocks we got from our fallen condition. A good rule of thumb when sorting truth from lie is to be aware of when things get overly complicated. Truth is simple, simple, simple. Now, I know this seems a little picky, and it is, but it illustrates something profound. So notice the two extra descriptions that were added. One, rocks there by our own doing. That's guilt, shame. And number two, rocks there by others. That's pride. So the first one, guilt and shame. Have you ever used guilt or shame to get a desired result? As Christians, for the most part, we want to be good. That's the lower law, but because we want to be good and we are human, we will often turn to earthly processes to get the job done. Now, the higher law says if you look at Christ, that your heart will be changed. All you have to do is look at him. So if you accept that you are forgiven, not only will you be forgiven, but divine grace will actually free you from this pattern of negativity that you're stuck in. If you accept that you are forgiven, that will also change your heart. And we go, nah, I'm gonna try guilt. I think that if I can feel bad enough about this, then I'll stop. So literally, we deny the atonement of Christ and say, I don't want your gift because I want results and I don't trust you to get them for me. So by saying that some of the sins come from us, what we're really saying is that I need to specify whose fault it is so that I can play the blame game. Because the blame game gets things done. But God's not concerned with whose fault it is. The atonement forgives so fully that the record is just gone. The only reason we would bring it up is because we think we need it to get results. Which brings us to the second one. Some of these rocks came from other people. We could just say that we're playing the blame game here again, but it's a bit more sinister than that, I think. And it's what I call the holiness game, the I'm better than you game. See, the problem with sinners and saints is that somebody's got to lose. In this scenario, we deny others the atonement because it makes us special. Christ is no respecter of persons. The atonement is for all, but we can't have that. because we're scared that we're going to lose what makes us special. We're going to lose that it factor, the I'm holy factor, the I'm better factor, the us versus the world factor. We think if everybody is saved, that somehow we are less worthy, because worthiness on earth was always earned through competition and comparison. We could all inherit grace, we could all give grace, but we will not allow that. In fact, we actually deny ourselves the freedom of forgiveness because we want the power of comparison. The higher law is milk and honey without price, but we insist on paying for it because we are scared that that's not true. And if it's not true, it would be better to have something on Judgment Day. So you can't forget another's sins because they actually lift you up. But God doesn't see things this way. He only cares that you're happy. He doesn't care that you're more or less happy than somebody else. True acceptance of the atonement requires us to stop playing the blame game. It requires us to let go of competition. You can't condemn yourself or others and at the same time forgive them. So forgive yourself. You will actually find that it's free. Forgive each other. Forgive your neighbor. Forgive the racist. Forgive the lost ones. Forgive the prideful ones. Forgive humanity. And you will find your self-righteousness dissolving, all the while being replaced by love. The true blessing and relief of the atonement is the aligning of your perspective to God's. God's perspective is effortlessly free, gloriously worthy, and infinitely delicious. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't compare. It doesn't label people good and bad. It simply loves all. May you be set free from your pain and find yourself inheriting the truth once again. To see as the Father sees is to enter His presence. Heaven is here and now. You're just missing it because you're denying it.